from Sam saying that you were the highlight of his day.
Yeah, I
And
didn't get on record.
mm-mm.
Never to
Never
be
again
repeated
now.
again.
Never again. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the University Speaking podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and today we are joined by Cassie. How's it going, Cassie?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And we've also got Sam with us, who has a lot of thoughts. So we probably shouldn't spend 10 minutes waffling on with an introduction. Is that right, Sam?
That is true. That is true. And I'm so excited to see if me and Cassie are aligned on those thoughts or if actually we're at opposite end of the spectrums. So can't
Mhm.
wait to get into it.
I just can't wait to hear Cassie's thoughts about Celestial Park. I can't wait for that little section.
A lot of concrete, Jay. A lot of concrete.
You've not forgotten that, have you? You've experienced that concrete now, so you can tell me all about it, I'm sure. So this week's episode will be very very similar to last week's. We just obviously had to get Cassie and Sam's Epic Universe thoughts. Of course, we couldn't let them out because, as aforementioned, they've both got a lot of thoughts, and they just kind of want to share with everyone else, and obviously myself as well. And just as a reminder, as when this comes out, the park has literally only just opened, so we don't want to go into any specific details. I know, Sam, I'm looking at you. You'll want to go into all the details, I know. Just try and refrain for a few weeks. Can you manage that?
No.
No.
But you can edit them out anyway, so it's fine.
That's
That
true.
is true. That is true. I've just got a risk warning on my laptop come up. That's not a good start, is it?
Oh no.
Let's just keep going with that one. Starting with you, Cassie, then, as seen as you went first. What were your initial overall impressions of the park?
So I feel like I had a really great 2 days of previews because it was before it opened to the general public. So it was very much just annual pass holders and hotel guests and military, I think. So the park was about at, I think they said 15% capacity when I was there. Only about 6,000 tickets were sold the 2 days that I was there. 6 to 8,000, something like that. So my first day, I felt, everything was my second day was better than my first, to say the least. My first day was a Saturday and things were not 100% working, a lot
Yeah,
of stuff.
I think
So
we'll come on to Sam, but Sam's third day was a lot better than his first and second day.
yes, we had similar experiences with some of that. So like our second day was much better, but overall, I mean, we'll get into, the nitty-gritty of it all, but it was great. I had a fantastic trip.
And Sam, first and second and third impressions for you. How was it all?
It was good. It was good. I think it was a very mixed set of emotions, a very mixed set of experiences. And I don't know about you, Cassie, going into this, but it was hard to know what to expect because the last time a major theme park opened in Florida, social media didn't exist. Like you might have heard about it from someone else who's been, but there was nothing like there was in terms of the build up. And obviously, we were all trying to avoid spoilers and everything as we found out from our high quality episodes in the past. But it was just so built up, I guess, even with trying to avoid things, that it was always going to be interesting going into it, whether it was going to live up to the little bit of hype that I managed to experience. But yeah, it was good. It was exciting, and I must admit, I haven't felt excitement going on a Universal trip quite like I did for that one for a long, long time, if at all, to be honest with you. Even going back after COVID, it it was going back to what was familiar. There was a couple of new things, but there was nothing on the scale of this. So, yeah, it mixed in terms of experiences, but the excitement going into it was off the chart.
Did that excitement stay after your kind of first and second days, or did frustration come out on top?
Uh, we had a bit of everything, um, but that doesn't, I think, take away from the park. The park is very good. I don't obviously know what questions you're going to ask later on, but
Neither do I, Sam. Don't worry.
well, there we go. Um, so I guess I had a good first day. Good. Um, I expected day two to be better, which wasn't necessarily the case. But day three, like you said, was a peak. So I think because I left on a high, then that really helped shape him, how that experience was in my mind. But I must admit, although Epic Universe isn't perfect, and if I'm being honest, I don't think it will be perfect for years to come. I haven't stopped thinking about it since I've got home. It is the park that's always on my mind. Even the rides and the experiences that weren't necessarily my favorite, they're there. And I was excited obviously for August and going with the family, but even more so now. I cannot wait to get back.
Cassie, how did the atmosphere feel compared to the other two parks?
Oh my gosh. I agree with everything Sam said. Like, it's all I've been thinking about. And like, when I walked in, so I walked over from Stella Nova. I think Sam did as well. So you have a walkway and they are blaring the music, like the new score. And like literally, oh, the man, it just started. The tears started. I like had my sunglasses on, thank gosh. But the whole atmosphere, just not even being in the park yet, like standing outside and just waiting to get in, it was like it just felt so different and very hot, very, very freaking hot in that park. But I mean, it's crazy how it's so different from Universal and Islands of Adventure. It just is. It's a completely different feel.
And I don't know if you got the security guard or not, Cassie, but there is a certain security guard. I think it was called Dan or Daniel, and he had so much energy and he got the crowd so excited. I think like some team members came out later on that was their job to get the crowd ready and they just
Mhm.
couldn't match his hype. And there was literally people taking selfies with him. Tell me a park where guests want to take selfies with a security guard, but honestly, he was, yeah. I'm not going to say the highlight of the day because that doesn't sound very good for Epic Universe, but he definitely got the day off to a great start.
Yes, we had him too, and I was extremely impressed with honestly with all the people in general. Like the customer service in that park was 10 times what I experienced at the other parks. The people were incredible.
Sam, atmosphere for you? How was the whole atmosphere? Did you find?
Other than in guest services, the atmosphere was great.
We'll get on to that.
We'll get on to that. Okay. I was going to say there's a moment in particular, but there wasn't. There was multiple moments where coming off a certain attraction, which may or may not get mentioned later on, I have never in my life experienced atmosphere like that coming off a certain ride. The other guests were so pumped, as was I, like absolutely
Pretty
buzzing.
sure we know which ride you're talking about.
That carousel is top notch, honestly. But yeah, the atmosphere was off the charts. Everyone's excitement, but I think there was probably a little bit of nervousness mixed in with that as well because a lot of people were there for their one and only day. They didn't know what to expect. Obviously, operations were mixed, but I think everybody was really excited and to the extent where some people were running Jay, not gonna lie.
I don't know if I can let them off with it being a new park. Maybe I can. I don't know. Wait till I get there in next week when this comes out actually. Um, but yeah, one of my biggest worries is that obviously a shiny new park is great, but I'm still worried that it won't have that same feel, that same universal feel because of nostalgia, as we always say, Sam. So how was that feeling for you in a new park?
You know what? I had an attachment to it straight away. I'm not gonna lie. It was a very different feel. It obviously, like you say, it wasn't coming from a place of nostalgia. Maybe it was coming from a place of excitement, a place of things being shiny and new. And I think this will absolutely wear off as future trips come on. But I must admit, when I was walking around studios, when I was walking around islands, I was like, this is fine. This is good. I'm having fun. But a part of me just thought, I'd rather be at Epic right now. And that's not to say it is my favorite because out of the three parks at the minute, it is number three. So it's very much not, it was my favorite. And that's why I wanted to go. But there was just something about it that made me really want to head back. And as you well know, Jay, day three wasn't planned.
I
Day
think I,
three
I think I
happened.
assisted in getting you there. I think kind of. I kind of give you a
Yeah,
little push.
yeah, I think you did multiple times. Even when I was saying it's not going to happen, it happened.
Well, you missed out
But
on Born. You missed out on Born, so I'm still a bit
I
like.
know I did it another
You did
day.
it
But yes,
eventually.
I was literally in the pre-show for Born. The woman was doing her spiel about him being, an undercover agent and everything else. And I literally just got my phone up, I booked it, and off I went.
Can you imagine if you didn't book it though? I know obviously people listening might not know the full story of your trip, but if you didn't book that third epic day,
Crazy, isn't it? Likewise, if I didn't go to guest services, spoiler alert,
yeah.
thoughts to come up short, then I probably wouldn't have booked day three anyway because I wasn't ready to put three days worth of money down to experience it, but because of how things panned out, then yeah.
Right, moving on. Shall we talk about the lands? And this is interesting because obviously we all did our hype list together. It was a controversial episode. Obviously, we got lots of messages about it. The people agreed with you most, Cassie. So congratulations on that. Sam, you were
Thank
bottom
you.
out of the three. Just to let you know about that one. Right, Cassie, starting with you. Then, what was your favourite land after experiencing it all, and why?
Okay, so in terms of just the land, not thinking of rides or anything,
Yes.
just vibes, ambiance.
She's gonna say Celestial Park, Sam. She's gonna say Celestial Park.
I'm not, I do love
Oh,
Celestial Park so
close,
much.
close.
I have like a tie, but I think I am gonna go with just based on just everything. I think I'm gonna go with How to Train Your Dragon. That ends up matching my
That was
my
your one.
favorite
Yeah,
park.
that was your one on your hype list, wasn't it?
It was, and I really enjoyed that land just because it was big. It was really big compared to some of the other ones, and just the attention to detail in that land in particular, I felt was the best.
And the music,
The
I guess.
music, oh my gosh, yes, yep, it's there. It's there. It's so good.
Inject it.
Yes, please. The only bad thing is, I will say, that's the hottest part of the park, I think.
Oh, really? I've heard
Mhm.
Nintendo's quite hot as well. As obviously Celestial, there's no shade.
Oh yeah, I mean. I guess like
Sam's
I
laughing.
was only going to the other lands in the morning. So I was at How to Train Your Dragon in the peak afternoon. So maybe that's why, because it
Yeah,
was just hot in general. So
yeah. The no shade thing is concerning me a little bit, but
it's very real. There is no shade in that park.
yeah, I'm already burnt and I'm not even gone yet, so who cares? Sam, what
I,
was
I,
your?
I was
Oh, we
I
go.
was going to say the hottest land, to be honest, for me was Monsters. So we've all gone for completely different lands, which
That
probably just
universe,
shows how hot this park actually is. If we're all thinking different bits of it are the warmest.
that universe, just to make sure it's the right name. Mario Kart Madness. I've had so many messages about that.
That was so funny.
It was unintentional, but it made it. I'll be honest, it made the
But
episode.
the funny thing as well, if it wasn't for trying to get the names right, I wouldn't
I
have got it
know,
wrong. I would
I
have just called
know.
it Donkey Kong, and that'd have been that. But it's because I went to my list to read it, and then I saw the M, and it was like, oh, we've just been talking about Nintendo, Mario, and it was like, yeah.
Keep doing it. It makes for it makes fun anyway.
It
Sam,
does.
what was your favorite land and why?
So all the lands are great. Let's put that out there. Already, my hype list, if I'm being honest, is probably a true reflection of where I landed for the most part in terms of where the lands were for me, which means Celestial Park was number five. Just saying. But I am going to agree with Cassie that Isle of Burke was the one that did it for me. Again, coming into Epic, I had watched the How to Train Your Dragon film just literally a couple of days before, so obviously it was fresh. I kind of had that emotional kind of connection with watching it with my son just before I went. But like Cassie said, from a land perspective, it's the largest. It feels the most complete. If I'm being honest, some of the other lands we know have already got expansions lined up and they need expansions. It for me, it's going off on a tangent, almost like pre-COVID, they planned for these lands to be bigger, and then when they decided they were going to recommence building, it was like, well, we'll cut that bit for now. We'll say that's day two, when actually it should have probably been there from the off. But
Mhm.
with Burke, it very much feels complete. Like Cassie said, the music is on point. It's loud. The music's loud in all the lands. But again, when you've kind of got that soundtrack underpinned, but I think Burke has a bit of everything. It certainly has one of my favourite attractions. It's got the meet and greet, it's got a fantastic show, it's got some rides that are maybe not quite as strong, but it's got a bit of everything and it ticks, I think, the boxes for everyone.
Didn't you have Nintendo One on your hype list, Sam?
I did, yes. That
So
dropped down to
where
number two for me.
number two. So that was still pretty high.
Still pretty high, yeah. And, I think it struggled with the crowds, especially because of early park admission. A lot of people kind of rushed there. But from an immersion perspective, I'd say Nintendo is probably number one, but I think just as an overall land, it's got to be Burke, I think.
Cassie, Celestial Park. Obviously, we've exchanged a few messages, and between the three of us, and you said maybe I was right all along.
Yes, yes, you were right with how amazing. To me, I love Celestial Park.
Yes.
Hey, it's not number two though. It's not number two
It's
because
not five. It's not five.
it's not five though.
Yes.
And I will tell you, I really am struggling with my number two because, but I think I am going to go for number two, I think I'm going to go with the Wizarding World. I had a really, really great experience in the Wizarding World. And it has nothing to do, like, I don't know what I was going in there like at dusk until the evening. Sam, I don't know if you went in there at night at all, but to me, when it had like cleared out, the details in the Wizarding World with the magical creatures and just like everything in there, I was really impressed with the like food overall too, drinks. Um, we had a really good time just kind of walking around in there at night. So I'm putting Wizarding World at number two, but it has a really close tie for number two as well.
Pretty sad that I asked about Celestial Park and you started talking about Wizarding World Paris.
Sorry.
I don't know what that says about Celestial Park, but I got like
It's
a
a
yeah.
it's amazing. It's just amazing. It is. But like
Okay.
to me it's like when you say like lands, I'm thinking of like
Yeah.
your major
It is. It
lands.
is more of a hub, I guess. It's probably not a land per se. Maybe I don't know. Obviously, it is, but
Yeah.
it is a hub.
It felt like a hub, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
It was like a well themed way to connect the lands, but
Hmm.
it didn't feel a land
Mhm.
in the same way, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Totally agree.
Sam, how did you find the Wizarding World Paris or whatever you want to call it? Harry Potter.
Um, the most stressful part of the park, thank God, 5 hour waits are here, and we don't have to worry about bloody virtual queues anymore. Um, Vertically, I mean, obviously Nintendo's got a lot going on with the vertical elements as well, and it's over 2 floors. But vertically, Paris and the Wizarding World, whatever we want to call it, is so immersive going upwards. I think we talked about this maybe on one of the earlier episodes about how
How grand it is.
the smallest part is bigger than the biggest part in Diagon Alley.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But it does very much feel like it's towering upwards. I'll be honest, I didn't find there to be a lot of things to do in there. I wandered into a couple of shops and I literally wandered out about a minute later, to be honest, just because I was like trying to almost kill time to the next, not getting a virtual queue. Um, it's certainly impressive. I think when the Ministry of Magic ride is fully operational and hopefully calms down a little bit, that will add new energy and life to the land. But at the minute, I found it a little bit empty, if I'm being honest. Unless you were going in for the show, um, because it was virtual queue dependent on getting on the ride, there just wasn't a huge amount to do. But visually, it was impressive. But it was probably the land, if I'm being honest, that I found myself going to the least amount of time.
Is it because you don't like small animals like Cassie does? It's the little animals do it for her, I think.
Yes. Very much. Well, I will say also, like, I feel like, I mean, this is not a spoiler, everyone knows this. Walking into the ministry,
Mhm.
just like took my breath away.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what made that land for me because pictures do not do it justice. Like, it is incredible. And I think that's a major part of why I liked it so much. Um,
Yeah, I
but
would
yeah,
agree with them.
yeah.
So the only land we actually haven't mentioned that is Dark Universe. And I think Cassie, did you say on our hype list podcast when you were like when we did have it in our number top twos, and you were like, you might be the only person that doesn't have it in our top two, but it's not
Yeah,
been mentioned yet. How was that for you?
um, I really, the thing is like all the lands are strong. So I feel like it's so hard when you're looking at it because some people say Dark Universe is their favorite land. Um,
I'm not going to be the
I,
enemy today. It's going to be Cassie.
it's gonna be me. I'm gonna be the enemy and everyone's gonna hate me. And everyone's gonna be like, just fire her
It's
from the
your turn. It's
podcast.
your turn this week.
It is. It's my turn. Um, Dark Universe was actually the least impressive on my list.
Whoa! I
I
did
know.
not expect that.
I know. I know. I
My
Wow.
number 5, Celestial Park. But
I did not expect that. I'm really you just shocked me
I'm
there.
so sad about it though too, because I spent a lot of time in there, but I'm not basing this off the ride. I'm not basing this off of anything in
You sound
there.
like me from like 3 episodes ago.
I know, I know. I just there were a lot of impressive elements in Dark Universe and a lot of really amazing attention to detail, meaning characters that I had so much. Actually spent a lot of time in there and I enjoyed it. And the Burning Blade Tavern's really cool, but I just found that there was not a lot of space. Um, it was just lacking a little bit. Like I cannot imagine what that place is going to look like when the park is fully open. Because it was cramped when I was there for a preview, which I think kind of took away from the overall vibe of the land, if I'm being honest.
Wow, you've shocked me there. Sam, any thoughts on Dark Universe or monsters?
Monsters.
What's this dark universe we're talking about? Um, I agree with Cassie in many respects. The only thing that I will say that kind of took it to the next level for me would be when I went in at night time. It had been raining. It just felt a little bit more
Yeah, that must
atmospheric.
be
It
so
felt
much
a little bit
better.
more
Yeah.
Halloween Horror Nightsy,
Mhm.
to be honest. So that bit I particularly enjoyed, but again, it's not one two. I'm not sure. I might just maybe put it at three. To be honest, that and the Ministry are very very close to me. But yeah, it had some good elements. It also felt lacking. It felt quite close at times, and I think thankfully I avoided some of the peak times. But I can certainly imagine if you were, rushing to doing the rides, at 9, 10 a.m. whenever the park ends up opening, that it'd be heaving and not a nice experience. And like I say, for me, the land which felt the hottest, there's not a lot of seating when you are trying to eat your food. And as a side note, this can be one for your little trailer, Jay. There's a certain black burger that goes in black, but it comes out green. So that was a little treat for me for 3 days. Didn't know what was going on until I saw it online.
I heard that. I heard that, and Carson really wanted to get the burger, and I was like, no, 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 you're not getting the burger.
I was just there FaceTiming Victoria like you do, sat on the toilet, and I was like, hang on, this is a bit green.
I don't know where to go from this. I'm so sorry, Cassie.
I'm intrigued whether this makes the final cut of the podcast because
No,
that clearly
so
shows what level you put this
Yeah,
podcast on.
who knows? Who knows at this point? I
oh
genuinely
my
don't. You've
gosh.
stumped me there. From Cassie's point to now that it's like, where do I go? Moving on, some way. um, oh, wow, is that the level we're going for? You've really brought us right down, Sam.
Gotta have the honesty though. You gotta let the people know before
Yeah,
you
well,
have to let them know.
I'll avoid that burger then in future. future.
What I will say is that wasn't the worst bit of the burger.
Oh no, not
The,
more. Please stop, Sam. Don't keep going.
the worst bit was it was literally about 3 inches big. It was like the same size as a hamburger from McDonald's, but I don't know how much it cost me. But food in Epic I found quite expensive,
Mm.
and it was certainly small. And actually, the worst thing from our perspective is, Jay, it came with chips, but it came with
Fries.
American chips.
Fries.
No,
Oh, can we crisps?
it came with
Sorry,
crisps.
Cassie.
Who wants a burger and crisp stroke chips?
Yeah. That's not. I don't know if that's is that a US thing, Cassie? Do you get chips? You call them crisps? What we
Y'all.
call them with burgers, or is that just a theme park thing?
No, it's like I've been to places where you have like a deli sandwich, like a ham and cheese or like
They always
a
come with chips, don't they?
and
Crisps.
those
Yeah.
come with like
Yeah.
crisps, chips.
this could be, let's just keep saying
Yes.
crisps and chips and
Yes. But I'm telling you, like I've never seen that as much as I have been seeing it as I saw it Epic. I literally was like, no, I want French fries. Like I want French fries. It's not a lot to ask. Like I just want French fries. I don't want chips, crisps, whatever.
you've jumped ahead like 3 sections, Sam. We'll come back to food, but I guess you've. I'm not
Are
going
they
back to
French
that
fries
burger.
if they're in the ministry? But if they're
Yeah,
not in the Wizarding World, they're just fries.
just fries. Yeah. Just to go back to that universe where we originally were, Cassie.
What the green poo?
No, not that. No, that's getting cut out. Do you think? Because obviously you were so hyped for it, and it's kind of a like I mentioned before, it's kind of a diehard fandom, and people were so excited for this kind of classic monsters to be brought back to life. Do you think that people like yourself who were so excited for it are now feeling similar to you and a bit underwhelmed by it?
To be honest, like what I'm seeing on social media is that the people who were the most excited for it are still like it's my number one. I think I just had maybe an off time. I didn't go in at night, so I feel like this upcoming
Or did you
trip.
not?
I
That could
didn't
be a
go in at
game
night at
changer.
all. It was very much so like I was in Celestial Park at night because I was just
Is the
having so
best.
much fun. Yeah. Um,
You at the
but
bar.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
many a times cried because of the bar. So you can thank them. They have strong drinks. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still am like, it's still strong. Don't get me wrong. Like it's still a very great land, but it was just personally my least favorite. I just didn't. I don't know. And again, this has
Think-
nothing to do with the ride, the technology, animatronics. That was probably, I mean, that was just incredible. But anyway, yes, ran over.
I'm getting flashbacks. I listened back to the land hype list episode, and the amount of times I said this is nothing to do with the rides. I'm listening back thinking, just shut up. You've said it 58 times. Like
I still didn't get that memo, Jay.
I know we yeah, we didn't we need to plan more clearly.
Well, it's hard. It's like hard before you go though, because that is what you're thinking
Yeah.
about. Like
And
after you go, you can have a little bit more of like a the land vibe. Like I don't, Sam, I don't know if you
yeah.
agree. Like you can understand the lands a little bit more now that
to,
you've
to
been.
to be fair, when I was listening back, I was thinking, well, the rides are kind of part of the land, so we should have just kind of done it all together. I don't know, but it is hard to think about the lands because Sam's like, well, there's nothing. It's a Celestial Park for me, other than like
Mm.
a big roller
Well,
coaster.
well,
But
to be fair, Jay, based on the operations, there wasn't a huge amount to do in a lot of the lands. So
well,
actually walking
yeah,
around was a big part of the day. But
we'll
Yeah.
come
anyway,
on. We'll
we'll
come
come
on
on
to
to
the
that.
negatives. We'll come on to the negatives very soon. Right then, moving on to the rides, the most exciting part of the whole parks, of course. Sam, you must be pleased that you got a third go because we'll come on to it later. But you got especially one ride that you wanted to do ticked off on your third time of asking. So start off with your number three, Sam.
Yeah, so you asked for my number three. I'm going to take us to number four, first of all.
Oh, you're changing the rules again.
All I'm going to say is, again, I appreciate there may be the odd exception, but for me, I would say there's four strong rides at this park. You know, your fifth, your sixth, fair enough, they might be there or thereabouts. But for me, I think there's probably four standout attractions. So I would
Just
imagine,
before you go, Sam, your hype list for your rides was controversial.
was it?
Monsters Unchained and Battle of the Ministry were in your top four or five.
I had Monsters at number four,
Okay,
Ministry at number five.
Ministry five. Didn't have in your top three, which was a pretty hot take.
Yeah, but again, you got to think. I said obviously it was about me going as a family. The first time I was going to be riding things with my son, and therefore my number one was probably a little bit higher than what most people's number ones would be. And unsurprisingly, it's not my number one coming off the trip. But
Oh,
yeah, fair enough.
we'll never guess what your one is.
No, you won't. Yeah, so I think generally speaking, most people's top three are going to be made out of four rides. And like I say, I think there's quite a clear line between fourth and the others. You know, I think maybe a lot of us went into the park thinking there's going to be lots and lots of amazing rides, but in reality, if you go to Universal Studios, you go to Islands of Adventure, not every ride in that park is unbelievable. You know, you have a few that are really, really strong, a few that are mid
Well,
tier, and a
Doctor
few.
Doom, Sam.
He's not going to listen anyway, so I'm not even going to comment anymore.
Inside
Um,
joke.
right, so my number three then was that
Yeah,
the question?
you've got to have three. I'm not letting you have four, just three.
No, I don't want four. I was just kind of saying I just wanted to draw
There is four. Yeah, yeah.
there is a line sort of between four. Um, so my number three was my number one at one point.
Mario Kart Madness. That's interesting.
That's the one. So it got knocked down when I rode a certain other attraction. But then again, as I thought more about what I enjoyed, about kind of what gave me that emotional connection, which I'm most excited to get back to, it did drop down again into third place. So I'm not sure if Cassie's going to have this in her top three. It might be her number four, it might not be. But for me, number three was the ride that you're most looking forward to, Jay. That was the Ministry of Magic.
Oh,
And
I thought you were going to say I got it completely wrong. Never mind.
what were you going for?
I thought it was Donkey Kong because it was your number one, wasn't it? Your hype list.
Number five. Number
Okay.
five.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
But yeah, again, I need the dust to sell. I need to go on it again with a 5 hour wait, probably in August, because there was so much built up excitement. As you know, Jay, obviously we were messaging around that virtual queue. You know, this was days and hours after going back and forth trying to get a virtual queue. There was so much excitement to there be in a position to finally have it. You know, an attraction that I thought I wasn't going to be able to ride, and then to ride it was unbelievable. So that I think will play into it. So it'll be good to go and ride it again. But that attraction was unreal. Really, really enjoyed it. Like Cassie's mentioned earlier on, going through that initial bit of the queue, going through a certain effect and coming into a certain lobby is I've never seen anything like that in an attraction. That reveal, the scale. I mean, this whole queue, I can believe it can hold 5+ hours anyway, so nobody's gonna have to worry about being in the sun. Let's make that clear with the current wait times. But that bit of the queue in particular was unreal. Again, there's so much to see throughout the rest of the queue because you're going to be in it for a while and you're going to be walking for quite some time. But the queue, amazing. Probably the best queue, like I say, there is. The attraction itself, I was a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. The first 10, 20 seconds, I thought, is this ride going to agree with me or not? But thankfully, that feeling soon settled down and off we went. And yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Again, I'm not going to go into any spoilers, any real specifics, but it was just a really good, solid ride. That kind of blended screens with non-screens.
I think you need to say a thank you to a certain Nick Chandler, don't you, Sam?
I do indeed. Unbelievable, man.
Just explain what happened there.
Yeah, so I was unsuccessful for, I think, probably the sixth, seventh time at getting a virtual queue. And a lovely gentleman randomly popped up on Instagram asking if I needed a virtual queue. So at which point I had no context about, is he just, you know, rubbing salt in the wound? Is he kind of saying, yeah, me too?
Yeah, it was me. It was a
well,
fake account I created.
there you go. It could well have been. And literally by the time I'd responded, he'd sent me a virtual queue pass for up to 8 people to go ride. So if it wasn't for him, there is no chance that I'd have been able to experience that attraction. Like I say, at one point was my number one and certainly kind of up there. So yeah, huge shout out to him. Really, really appreciated it. But yeah, literally someone who we were on Instagram, mutual connections, but never spoken to each other. And yeah, I don't know how he got the pass. I don't know why he thought to send it to me, but hugely appreciate him doing so. And yeah, Ministry of Magic, my number three. I can imagine some people will have it higher. Maybe the odd person will have it lower. We will soon find out, Cassie. But yeah, really strong attraction. I think you'll like it, Joe.
Where does that rank in terms of all the Harry Potter attractions for you then, Sam? Is it top of the tree?
I need to
I
ride
know
it
you
again.
hate Hagrid's, but yeah.
It's certainly above Forbidden Journey. It's certainly above Flight of the Hippogriff and Gringotts. Um, it's just so different to Hagrid's.
Yeah, very
It's
different
probably
ride.
hard, which is why I need to ride it more. But it's certainly enjoyable.
Cassie, you're number three?
Um, oh gosh, yeah, this
You've
is
not decided, have you? Have you decided yet?
it's hard
Yeah.
because it's like I agree with Sam on the whole, like there's four strong rides. So it's like to me there's a four and a three and a two and a one that like I want to lay out because to me I have got to ride everything again because I just feel like I just didn't it's not that I didn't appreciate it, but there were so many other things going on. And some of the ride effects weren't working for some rides and so that can kind of change it. So um I will probably also put Battle at the Ministry at number three.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
it was my number two. Uh, my number four and my number three are pretty close. So I'll say I had Monsters Unchained at number four. And it was my number one most anticipated. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, I have those laid out. And I just wanted to say four because I know a lot of people are going to be like, I'm hearing people like Monsters more than Ministry.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
hearing that a lot too.
And I kind of felt different. I felt that Battle of the Ministry offered more of an experience and just very different, something I wasn't expecting. I think I wasn't having as great of a time on it because I looked over at Carson and he was white as a ghost and had his hands and his head like this.
Oh no.
Um, he had a hard time on that ride, so I was kind of worried about him getting sick on it. Which he did. I mean, he didn't throw up, but he didn't feel great. Um, Nick Chandler also gave me a virtual queue, so
No
shout out to
way.
him.
What a
Yeah,
hero.
because I didn't
No
get it.
way. Nick, if you're
So shout out
listening,
to him.
I go next week and this comes out.
Yeah, he's like always in the parks and he goes all the time. So it's
But
just like
he wasn't
he's
there when Sam was he? He wasn't there when you were there. Is that right? He was in a
Yeah, I
different
think he was
state.
in a different state. Yeah.
that's so crazy that someone can do that.
He's like Willy
Um,
Wonka
Dear
handing
Hacker.
out golden tickets.
I'm so appreciative of it because I feel like I would have been so upset if I got off that trip and was not able to ride it now that there's a 5 hour wait.
This whole episode is dedicated to Nick Chandler. He's the goat.
Yes. We love you, Nick Chandler. Thank you so much.
That's going in the trailer.
Yes. But yes, number three for me. Definitely I agree with Sam, Battle of the Ministry.
And
Really, really strong. Now that but also looking back now, like maybe it wasn't in my top three, but now that I've left and come back home and really thought about it, I'm like, yeah, it's up there.
does it beat Hagrid's for you?
They're just so different.
It's hard
It's
to compare, isn't it?
so,
It's hard to compare.
and I don't do well with screen rides at all.
Were you okay
So
on it?
I was shockingly fine. I looked away a couple times
Mm.
and kind of, had a hard time, but the feel of the ride vehicle is I've never felt anything like it. Like when it first, I mean, Sam, I don't know if you felt this way, but it's like that first second that it started, I was like, oh my God. So yeah, it was pretty good. Next time I ride it, I might throw up though. So who's to say?
That's like me on Velocicoaster. Next time
And I
could be the
wrote,
time.
yeah, I was on the back row, but since I've heard the front row is even better, so I don't know which row you were on, Cassie, or not. But yeah, I would definitely say if you can ask for a row, try and get on the front row.
Hmm. I was in the back too.
That'll be the only ride I have for the front row. Because I won't be asking
Yeah.
on the roller coasters. Sam, you're number two?
Can I talk about my number four? Cassie talked about her
Yeah, I
first.
talked about mine. I'm so sorry. I had to do it to
You
him. I'm sorry.
you guys do what you please. I'm just
I'm
here
so
to.
sorry.
It's okay.
My number 11, then, if we're doing
It's consolation carousel.
yes,
Yeah.
it
I
was.
just thought it'd be a bit too long if we went through every ride. And like I said, there
Yeah.
is
Mm-mm.
3 or 4 standouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my number four was also Monsters Unchained. And
Okay.
it is such an impressive ride. Like, I've never seen animatronics do the things they do visually. There's a couple. The first Dr. Frankenstein. I don't know what you thought about Cassie, but I thought that wasn't necessarily the strongest. But some of the others are off the scale. And I don't know if because I did single rider the first time, so maybe I missed a little bit of the story until maybe ride three. But it's like, even now, I struggle a little bit with actually the story. It almost seems like a bit of a showcase of unbelievable animatronics and effects.
Hmm.
And what it does is unbelievable. But even now, I still ride it a bit like, what's actually going on? And I've ridden it 7 times. It's the attraction I rode most at Epic Universe. So I think it's amazing, and I can understand why it would be certainly some people's number one. But for me, it was just the fact of I didn't know how much re-rideability it had because all I was doing was going on it again. Because one, it had an amazing single rider line that was really, really efficient. So it was like, well, if there's not a lot else I can ride, I might as well ride this.
Hmm.
And two, I was just doing it to see the animatronics as
Hmm.
opposed to being engrossed in a really good story.
Yeah.
So
That is one
that's
thing
my
about Monsters, that the single rider line and the queue time itself, every time I check, it seems to be pretty low. Like yesterday I checked, Mario Kart Madness was 150. Battle of the Ministry was obviously, who knows, 4,000 minutes, however long it was at that point.
Hmm.
And Monsters was 20 minutes, and that's obviously the standby, not even a single rider. So that is something it does have going for it, similar to Forbidden Journey, just because of the I don't know, what's the word they call it, Sam? The how many trains can get through
Frequent.
us? Yeah, whatever. I don't know. Again, if
Well,
you're
it is.
going for
Sorry,
the real words, you're not coming for the right podcast.
not going for the right opinions either, are they really?
Yeah.
Um, but whilst it is similar in many ways to Forbidden Journey,
Hmm.
it is so next level. And for
Yeah.
someone who struggles with Forbidden Journey, like I rode it once this trip, and there were a couple of bits where I can't remember if I was looked away or shut my eyes, but I wasn't feeling it, let's say. But not once on this particular ride did I feel anything.
Mm-mm.
So whilst it is similar, obviously a big issue that a lot of people have with Forbidden Journey is that motion sickness, which I know you don't, Jay. But I think everybody could ride this. There are a couple of movements which, might be a little bit more physically intense than Forbidden Journey, but actually from just an overall experience, I'd say it's a really, really good one that everyone should try.
Agree.
How long will it be, Sam, until you start moaning about the blurry screens at Monsters Unchained? Give
There's
it a
so
couple of
limited
years.
screens, to be honest, and I think that's the thing that works really well is the screens are almost a background, a bit
Hmm.
of a backdrop to add effects as opposed to being the focal point. So I'm not going to complain about that one, at least not till August anyway.
I
Yeah.
get what you mean about, like, when I first did Hagrid's, I was like, what just happened? It took
Mm,
me like 3, 4, 5, 6 rides to be like, oh my God, I love this. So
yeah.
again, I know, Sam, you've ridden monsters quite a lot. So did that help things in terms of your enjoyment for that ride, or not really change it at all?
It probably didn't change too much. I felt the same way on ride one as I did ride seven. What I will definitely say is do the pre-shows and the full queue the first time, maybe the first two times. One, because they're really impressive, but two, at least it'll start to tell that story. But yeah, single rider is more often than not just a 10, 15 minute wait, to be honest. It's, yeah,
I've just,
unbelievable.
I've just seen everyone thirsted over, like thirst trapping over Victoria Frankenstein. Is that like the thing that everyone's doing at the minute? It seems to be.
I posted one thirsting over her
There you go.
myself.
It might have been yours that I saw, but I've seen quite a few.
What
I
about
didn't, I don't know. I felt like I agree with Sam. Like the anime, maybe the first one, I wasn't like a super, I don't know. I was just kind of like, eh. But like her like voice and her like spiel is really cool. So I don't
Hmm.
know.
I feel like I've said this already, Sam, but can you tell us your number two?
I was literally about to say, do you want to know my number two before we
I'd
went
love
off
it, really would.
that tangent? So my number two, again, unsurprising, was number one at one point. And it's something that I thought and hoped was going to be really strong. It's something that I purchased a t-shirt of before heading out to Orlando because I had that much hope in it. And to be honest, it lived up to everything I wanted it to be and so much more. And that is Hiccup's Wing Gliders, which on the
So
face of it
excited, so excited.
isn't obviously like when you think about me and Velocicoaster and the like, it's not quite the same sort of level, but honestly, the thrills and the enjoyment and the happiness that this ride gave was so much more. And this is for me, like the crown jewel of that land. The land, as me and Cass have already said, is our favourites, but this ride was the pinnacle. Honestly, so good. Again, I don't want to talk too much about.
Mhm.
I don't want to say spoilers, but things going on.
Mhm.
But just I was impressed from start to finish. And bearing in mind my first ride, actually, we had to be taken. I was on the front row. We didn't move after a couple of minutes, had to be taken off, held at the side for 25 minutes. We then got on, we rode, but there was no audio. Spoiler, there is audio. There you go, Jay. Little treat for you.
I don't think that's a
Um,
spoiler.
but then but still had an amazing time and then re-rode straight after. And to kind of go from that, not, I wouldn't say disappointment because I still absolutely loved it, but not having the perfect experience, first of all, but still to love it, then to go re-ride again and have an unbelievable experience. It was, yeah, that was the ride that I would have loved to have done again. I would have loved to have experienced at night because I've heard that's good as well. But yeah, the ride itself, the elements of it, but the fact you go around the land as well, and we love that land, so to be able to see it from a slightly different viewpoint, it's really really strong. And like I said, I could have walked away from Epic, that being my number one, and even if Stardust didn't quite live up to the hype, um, I would have been really happy that we've got a fantastic coaster in Hiccup Swing Gliders. So yeah, number two. But like I say, I think I'm going to really enjoy riding that one with Joey for the first time in August as well.
Yeah, you won't have heard this yet, but on last week's episode, I think Danielle had it in her number one spot. And she was like, I just love holding my arms out. I feel like I'm on a dragon flying around. Like, literally feels like it.
And there's quite a few British couples out there from Instagram, people messaging or putting on stories that like there was that favorite ride, and that's the one you definitely want to make sure you do. And obviously, whilst I was excited, some element of me thought, well, is it still a little bit more geared towards kids? But honestly, adults across the board are absolutely loving this one and unreal.
Sam, I'm scared to ask this, but Hagrid's versus Hiccups, where do you go on that one?
I go on hiccups.
I knew I shouldn't have asked that question. Why is it better for
Don't get
you
me
then?
wrong, Hagrid's has got a lot of obviously thrilling elements to it, which spoiler alert, Hiccups doesn't have a drop track halfway through. Um, but I just feel I have more fun. Whilst
Mhm.
like you obviously may have the time of your life in Hagrid's, and I'm sure a lot of people absolutely will. I just found not only Hiccups to be somewhat thrilling, there's a little bit of speed, but it was fun from start to finish.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Cassie, is it your number two as well?
My number two is hiccups. Yep,
Thought so.
it was an emotional experience. I pulled up the picture of me crying for to show y'all as soon as I got off of it.
That's a great
Literally,
picture. That.
I was crying so hard. I didn't know what to expect either because I didn't watch anything. I really avoided spoilers with hiccups, and I'm not gonna say anything, but like, man. Yeah, it start to finish, you are having the best time. Yes, you feel like you're on a dragon. It is so smooth. Like that is the smoothest coaster I think I have ever been on. It is very similar to I mean, not very similar, but like it has the feel of like what Hagrid's is. Family coaster, but much smoother than any coaster, really.
which
I
would
think
you
it's
which would you pick out of Hagrid's and Hiccups, Cassie? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot as well.
I
It's so
can't,
hard to compare. 'Cause why can't we just love all these rides the same?
I know, and like it depends. If you want to go based off of thrills, definitely Hagrid's. But if you want to go based off of like emotional experience, definitely Hiccups. Like if you love How to Train Your Dragon,
Mhm.
this is like this is it. It's a beautiful ride, and I won't say anything else.
I know I've said it in previous episodes, but like I've not looked at anything, any spoilers, or I didn't think it was intense at all. Obviously, it's not super intense, but I thought it was a little kids coaster basically. But
Yeah.
it's not. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely kiddie coaster
Mhm.
like, but there's a little bit more to it. I mean, there's a couple of moments that I was like, "Ooh, this is a little kind of got me for a second,"
Will
That
but
ride
will
is
I be okay, Cassie? Will I be
you'll
all
be
right?
fine. You'll be
Okay,
fine.
cool. Sam, I mean, we all know what both of your number ones are because you're both thrill seekers.
Hmm.
Just tells you number one again.
I'm confused what's going on there. So my number one is Stardust Races.
Shock.
As I mentioned, shock, I know. As we mentioned earlier, an attraction that I was leaving Epic Universe as far as I was concerned, not riding. Yeah, it was closed for the 2 days that I'd chosen to go.
How were you feeling after those 2 days? Obviously, you only had 2 days booked. You hadn't got on Stardust due to it being closed. Were you? I bet you were extremely gutted.
I was, but if I'm being honest, because of the whole operations and everything else that was going on, I don't know what I felt at that point, but I'll tell you how I felt after. So I did my last ride I came back into the load station about 5 to 9. The ride shut at night, the park shut at 9. And I was just coming in, having done front row on my favourite side, and it just felt the trip was complete at that point. Like this was my penultimate day, so I was heading home the day after anyway. But it was just like I'm done now. I'm ready to go home. And it was literally, I think, after I'd done Stardust at night on the front row, which then became my number one. So it was like I don't know how I would have felt about the trip, how I would have felt about Epic had
Mhm.
that not happened.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I certainly felt satisfied and kind of done and ready to head home happy coming in after that final ride. That ride was unbelievable. Obviously we spoke about a lot, kind of Jay going into it of Velocicoasters. My current number one, where was this going to be against that? And you know what? I spent quite a bit of time reflecting and thinking about the different sort of elements and breaking it down. But from my perspective, I've got a new number one attraction, and that is Stardust.
I'm calling recency bias. Recency bias. What would
I rode
Velocicoaster think about
Velocicoaster the
that?
next day, and I gave it its chance. But
You
honestly,
gave
on
it
the
its
green
chance, like
side,
it's a person.
oh, you got to give it a chance. Velocicoaster still, unbelievable, but ever so slightly. The green side of Stardust, which is the right hand side, at night, front row. Not only have you kind of got the dueling element, which is unbelievable, and to be honest, if it wasn't for that dueling element, the coaster wouldn't be the same level. But just when you're on it at night, the only thing lit up is your ride vehicle and the ride vehicle you're dueling against. So that it's such a strange feeling just looking to the right hand side as it is and seeing another car there and the lights. And as you kind of, I've got to be careful what I say, Jay, because I can feel you're probably getting sick at the just listening to this conversation. But yeah, it was unbelievable. It was probably one of the, if not the highlights of my entire trip, to be honest. So,
I was
Cassie, I
about
don't know what your thoughts were on Stardust or not.
go on, Cassie.
Yeah, Stardust was if that coaster was not at Epic, Epic would not be a highlight park. I mean, Carson and I both got off Stardust and he was like, thank God for that ride because he was not really into anything that we got on. I'll get into some other stuff with that, but we Stardust was absolutely incredible. I just don't know what I was expecting. And I agree with Sam. I mean, Velocicoaster and Stardust are up there for me, but the theming for me for Velocicoaster kind of takes over. But the dueling element is what makes Stardust just incredible. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, I no detail, but it's amazing.
As much as
So
I love roller coasters, they don't always love me.
Hmm.
But I did that 4 times, despite it being closed for a couple of hours for the weather, which to a lot of people, 4 hours, 4 rides over a few hours probably doesn't sound a lot. But the state of my body, 4 rides of a roller coaster is quite a lot. And I would have
Yeah.
loved to have done five, six, seven. Honestly, I didn't come off once feeling, slightly sick or nauseous. It was just, like I said, the pump of everybody just coming back into the load station afterwards. It was unreal. So
Cassie, number one, Stardust.
Stardust, yes. Sam, I love that we have the same exact top four because we differ in lands, but like our lands are so different. But to know that those are our top four rides, it just kind of proves your point that those are the four strongest. And I think most people are gonna have them in their top four. Stardust number one. I didn't ride it at night. I rode it at like 6, maybe 6 p.m. Uh, it was just I don't know. I like blacked out after. I felt like Carson was like, "Are you okay?" He like had to go get the stuff out the locker because I was just like it's like shaking so bad and like I mean, it's like a shocking experience. Like my hair was like this big. I mean,
Cassie, you're not helping here for me.
I'm telling you, you're gonna like it. Like I really do.
It
Like
won't be in my top four, I'll tell you that.
it will
Category,
be.
it won't
I
be.
know it will because it's so cool. You're gonna like it.
I'm not going on it.
If you go all the way to Epic Universe and do not get on it, I'm literally
try
gonna
and
rage.
try and bully me. Let's see how much everyone can bully me
I'll give
onto
you
it.
$100. Like I don't know what else to do.
Deal. It's done.
See, there you go.
I should put that on my story and say, what will you give me if I go on this ride? I could make
Something
like
just you could
500
make
bucks.
yeah, you could make some money. I'm telling you, because people are gonna want you to write it, so you give them a review. But yeah, Stardust number one for sure.
Yeah, it definitely won't be my number one. Go on, Sam.
I'm interested to see what casting number five is actually. And then I'm going to do
Okay.
six and then seven,
Yeah, I
eight,
was going to say, yeah.
nine.
Where does Yoshi's
Um,
Adventure rank in your list?
Honestly, Yoshi's was so cute. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't do a couple rides just due to wait times and just not being interested in them at all. Just super quickly, I will say my number five was Minecart Madness.
Me too.
Okay, cool. See, love that. There you go. Now everything else sucks. I'm just kidding. It doesn't suck, but not nearly as good as experiences as the others.
In terms of disappointments, then in terms of the rides, any disappointed you or didn't quite live up to the hype that you expected them to be?
Yes.
Which one?
Go,
Go on, Cassie.
go on, Cassie, you go first.
I was expecting a little bit more of a thrill with Monsters Unchained. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's why it ended up being a little bit lower for me, but it's because of the freaking overhype that all these people went online and were like, I've never been on anything so great my entire life. And like I'm a thrill seeker, so I do kind of want but after looking back now, I get the hype. It's a must do. It's amazing. But I was expecting a lot more thrill. I don't know why. That was probably my fault, but
That's the overhypers for you.
that one was overhyped, but it was still amazing. Still amazing.
Sam?
So I think,
Oh, here we go. He's got a list.
no, I'm going to give you an attraction, but I would just say, first of all, that I think there's an awful lot of attractions in this park that are particularly long.
Mm.
And I think that is one of the sort of biggest disappointments. Even, our number five of Minecart, aka Mario Kart. It's got some great thrills. I mean, it's rough. My God, is that ride rough? Like not
I've
even
heard that,
at
yeah.
first when I heard people saying it's rough, I thought is that just intentional? But
Mm.
like Yeah.
Should I be worried?
But
Should I be okay?
that's quite sure. But yeah, some of the rides, like especially with the wait times that they were getting, I don't feel you got a lot of bang for your buck. But the probably the biggest letdown, which to be honest, on my hype list, I had this at number six, and I put it as number six. So clearly it was where I thought it was going to be, but just overall disappointed where I thought it was going to be so much more was the actual Mario Kart.
You know what's coming. Yeah.
Like I did it twice, and it's just again, I don't want to spoil anything for you both by giving you an idea of what to expect or what not to expect, but then spoilers. But it just it was very slow, not very exciting. And I did it both times with the VR headset or the AR headset. I wanted to do it another time without it just to see how that compared, but I think that was the one. Whilst was number six, and I expected it to be number six, I just kind of came off it the most disappointed, especially with some of the wait times it gets. To be honest,
Yeah, it's at 100 right now, and Monsters Unchained's at 15. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, Cassie, how did you find Mario Kart Madness?
Did not ride it
Okay.
because I get motion sick pretty bad with
Mm.
screens, and I heard that this one can kind of do you in. Sam, what
Yeah.
were your thoughts on that?
I don't think it moves quick enough to
Okay.
give you any form of motion. To be honest, think I could walk probably 5 or 6 times faster.
See, that's
Are you talking
annoying.
about Yoshi's or Mario Kart Madness? Was Mario Kart
I
Yoshi's
think
Happy
that
Quest.
that
they tend to
slow?
go about the same speed. To be honest with you,
Really?
like
My gosh.
there is nothing to it. Like there's a couple of scenes, like in particular maybe towards the end where there's effects that maybe make you think you're going faster, or just visually it's quite pleasing. But honestly, the ride itself, it'd be good to obviously go with Joey and get his take on it. But yeah, it was very family focused as opposed to any thrilling elements, to be honest.
I feel like that's what's gonna mess me up is going slow, but you're supposed to look like it's going fast. I feel like my ears and my eyes are gonna like be like, nope, time to throw up. Like, it just
Maybe like the last 20, 30 seconds, but other than that, like no.
no. Okay. All right, good
Sam,
to know. Maybe I'll try it.
Sam, is it better than Minion Blast for you? Getting put you on the spot.
Oh God.
Um, no,
Wow.
because that has got, whilst clearly not the Men in Black level, I think it's got more to it. It's kind of got that competitiveness side, if you want it. It's for me probably got a little bit more re-rideability, especially if you factor in the wait time and one of
Hmm.
them's a walk on every single
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it again, like I say with Joey, but I certainly didn't feel the need to ride it anymore, other than to potentially try it without the headset and see if that made it any better or worse.
Just before we finish off this section, Sam, did you do the consolation carousel?
I did. I did it in daytime, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I wanted to do it at night. It was fine. I don't have a huge amount more to say. At one point, you did go quite high. I think that's supposed to be one of the bits that you are quite elevated at one point. But other than that, it seemed very much like a carousel, to be honest with you. But when it was, do I do Stardust at night or do I do that at night? Unfortunately, I went for Stardust.
Right, let's address the elephant in the room. At the time you both went, the park was still in technical rehearsals, so you can never be too sure what exactly you are going to get in terms of closures and delays, etc. But it has been receiving quite a lot of criticism. Um, Cassie, I'll come to you first because Sam needs to gather all of his thoughts.
Yeah. Um, okay, so I did 2 days. I'm so glad I did because our first day was kind of a bust. We really enjoyed just walking around though in general. So like I didn't have a horrible time because it was just like we ate and we like got drinks. So that was good to fill the space. But our first day, a lot of stuff was delayed. A lot of stuff had very, very high wait times. I think we sat like monsters went down while we were in the line, hiccups went down while we were in the line. So yeah, we weren't as, impressed with the operations ride wise. Whereas everything else operations wise, like just the entire park in general was everything was perfect. Um, perfect such a bad word, but perfect in a way that like we really couldn't have asked for a better like walking around and just enjoying the atmosphere. Whereas the rides were just not, the operations were not great at all.
Did that annoy you, Cassie, or did you kind of take it for what it was?
I think it didn't annoy me as bad because I knew I had another day.
Hmm.
And I was a little bit less concerned because I knew the second day was going to be less busy.
Hmm.
Less tickets were sold on the Sunday that I went versus the Saturday. Now, if I had only gone one day, I would have been pissed and would have asked for a refund for sure.
Like Sam.
I
So
told him to do it. I told
I
him,
was
I
going
said,
to
go to
say,
guest
I probably
services.
wouldn't have done it. It was Cassie that was saying, you do it, you go there next.
you march in there.
Yeah, I told him, I was like, you got to do it.
So yeah, Sam, you obviously you flew 4,500 miles across the Atlantic Ocean for 6 days, 5 days, 5 days in
Uh,
total,
5 nights, yeah.
5 nights. So you booked 2 days at Epic originally. Obviously, everyone or most people will have seen on your Instagram story if they're following along from you that it didn't go as you'd hoped. In previous weeks, operations had been a lot better. For example, Stardust was open most of the days, and you got there, being the massive coastal lover that you are, and both of your first 2 days, which was the only so you booked, your most anticipated, or not on your hype list, but deep down on your most anticipated ride, Stardust Races, was closed for the whole day on both your 2 days. So I just give a fairly brief overview in terms of how it all went down.
Yeah, so I put something on day two of my story on Instagram, basically saying how many rides were shut at that moment in time, what the wait times were the other. And I said, and I still stand by this, that my advice, if you come into previews, obviously being and gone by this point, is don't bother. Not because Epic is bad, not because you may not have an unbelievable day, because you may have the best day ever, but it is such a gamble and the price you're paying to not have that consistency. That was where I had the issue. From obviously the opened up ticket sales about a week before I went. And if I'm being honest, I don't think the park was actually that busy in the grand scheme of things. Certainly didn't sell out at the reduced capacity, which I think was about 10,000 tickets in total. But technical rehearsals, I get it. I wasn't expecting everything to be perfect. I wasn't even expecting everything to be open all the day. But when like half the park, maybe even more than half the park is down for hours on end, for me, that is unacceptable, especially when you're not that far away from opening. Like Cassie, we had instances, I say we, me, I was a loner, had instances where rides broke down whilst I was in the queue. Obviously, there was the issue with hiccups where I then had to come off. I think hiccups was probably one of the least reliable, but yet still remained open. Donkey Kong, aka Mario, well, that was down the entire first day completely. Curse the Werewolf was down the second day. I rode that on the first day. I want to rush back to ride it again, but anyway, that's by the by. Ministry of Magic wasn't open until 3 p.m. every single day, so already an already difficult ride to get onto is therefore even more difficult. And it did honestly get to the point where I was just a bit fed up. Like you said, yeah, flew all that way pretty much just to do Epic. The other, Universal parks were very much tag-ons, and the trip just had some unbelievable highs, but also some really low moments. And like you say, thank God I had that third day because that changed how I wasn't. And don't get me wrong, I think with anything, time goes and you forget the little annoying things. You remember the good things. So I may have been in a different position now, regardless, but definitely felt I left Epic Universe a lot happier on day three than day two. And as we mentioned, I did go to guest services. To be honest, I wouldn't have expected a refund because I would fully expected Universal to get behind its technical rehearsals. It is what it is, and I expect them to stand by that. But credit where it's due. They did honor things. They did initially try and give me a free afternoon in Epic, which I declined. They gave me a free day in Epic, which I declined at the time because there was no guarantee that Stardust or the operations were going to be any better any other day. So in the end, I got a refund, which went back to them to buy a third day anyway. But it's just that uncertainty. And even going to guest services, if I'm being honest, was a bit of a shambles because apparently they send you a text message when you register your details. Like you go to a desk outside, they take a brief overview of what the issue is, they text them your details, and you go and sit inside. So I got about an hour in, and I hadn't been called, but people had after. So thankfully, one of the team members said, "Can I just check your name?" So she could kind of look at her list. And as far as Universal was concerned, I'd cancelled my appointment. I hadn't. I was sat inside, but basically because it was a foreign number, they'd sent a text message. It just bounced back. So as far as they were concerned, I no longer wanted. But I was sat there for, let's say, an hour and a half by the time it actually got sorted. But yeah, in the end, I did get a refund, and I tried my luck because I waited so long. I managed to get 2 free express passes out of it, and that allowed me to ride Hiccups 2 more times, which I wouldn't have been able to do. So that was definitely a positive because, an hour and a half would have probably been two rides. It might have even been 2, 3 hours on Hiccups to get 2 rides out of it. So that worked well, but it was still, from an operational perspective, not good. And I know we're going to come on to food shortly, but again, I didn't have a great time with the operations for food as well. I had things that were cold. I sent it back because it was cold. It came out cold again. The third time was only a little bit warmer. Yeah, the operations worked great, and even team members, if I'm being honest, probably shouldn't have been saying this to guests, but they said they were ready for opening, but the park isn't ready for opening. And I think media, again, I appreciate this podcast may well have come out after media previews and opening, but I think the media are going to have a fantastic day. The park's going to be closed. They're going to make sure those rides are perfect for them. But I'm a little bit worried that opening day, opening week, the coming weeks aren't going to be great.
At least I'm not going in the coming weeks. That's okay.
I will be there in 5 days. I'm going back. And I am incredibly terrified. I will be there next Monday, actually. I'm going to be at the other parks. It's going to be insane. I don't have express passes. I don't have anything. Um, and I did want to add on to Operation Sam. I don't know if you experienced this, but Battle of the Ministry broke down multiple times while I was in line. I'm hearing that they have a lot, I mean, the technology's so amazing. Um, it was supposed to be a 45-minute wait, I think, after I got the virtual queue and ended up waiting about 2 hours. Um, the cast members seemed like they didn't know what was going on with that ride. Like it was the most, I don't know if you saw this too, Sam, but when we finally got to where it was loading time, they were loading like different groups of people onto different things. And I was just like, what in the world? Like they would take 2 people and put them over here, take 4 and put them over here, but then that cart wouldn't go. Or it was just the operations to me on like the worst was at Battle of the Ministry by far.
Yeah, and I was listening to another podcast, and I think what they were saying is in their heads there should have been like circles. It's like, right, you 2 people stand on these circles, you 3 on that. So then when you go into that final room, which is obviously quite small, just before
Mhm.
you're about to get in the ride vehicle, everybody knows where they're going, what's going on. But they seem to think, and I can believe it, that Warner Brothers were like, no, you're not putting circles in this room with this moment and things. And therefore 100% those operations are shambles. What I will say, if we're talking still about operations in a wider piece,
Got him started here. Here we
you
go.
have got me started here because whichever idiot, and I'm going to say that word, idiot, thought I'm going to build a theme park in Florida where literally 80% of the rides are outdoor rides,
Yep.
given that it storms an awful lot of afternoons, especially in the summer. Who thought that was a good idea? Like, literally, you've got 2 shows, which they're at capacity straight away. You've got the Ministry ride, which when I was there was virtual queue. Now you've got a 5 hour wait. So in essence, that ride may not exist because that's not an easy ride to go to if it storms. You've got the carousel, you've got monsters, and you've got Mario Kart. Literally everything else, attraction wise, which is what I think, like I say, if you take a ministry out of it, like 7 or 8 rides, all shut down the second there's a thunderstorm anywhere between 10, 15 miles away.
Yep.
Like, why would anybody think that is a good idea? I don't get it.
It's going to be bad when it storms and people are going there for one day. If it storms next Monday and I'm taking my family down there and they're not going to get to do anything, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so upset.
I'm very worried now about my upcoming trip.
How many
Very,
days do
very
you have
worried.
at Epic?
Uh, I have 3,
You'll
which
be fine.
no, at the time this comes out, people will know it's 3, but at the minute it's 2 that people know about. But I've booked 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Well, I was
keeping
gonna
all the
say,
secrets. All the secrets.
I was gonna say it kind of gives you though, like the mornings or
Yeah,
when it, doesn't rain. So go ahead and hit the outside stuff, in the mornings.
yeah. Sam, you said at the start of this episode that you can't stop thinking about Epic Universe. Is this why? Is this why?
No, you've re-energized the spark of
Oh,
negativity on this episode. It was only positive things, to be honest. I still stand by it's not a 10 out of 10 park. I think it's an 8 out of 10. I
Mhm.
definitely think it needs expansions. I don't think there's a huge amount of attractions there. And if they're going to expand, let's build some indoor ones. That would be a great idea.
mm.
Agreed.
But you take, like I say, those moments out, and what is there is next level.
Now, this is a very British reference, so you might not get this one, Cassie. But Sam, did you go full Karen mode in guest services?
No, I was it was very nice.
I don't know if
She
you have that.
she uh,
Go
she
on.
she said I was gonna I asked for an express pass. She said, I like you, I'm gonna give you two.
All right.
So there we go.
Honey, what do they say? Honey is better than something. It's like a saying we say in America. I don't even remember what it is, but
No, that's lost us too as well.
honey's sweeter than something when I don't
Yeah,
know,
Yeah.
I think I've heard. Yeah, I've
something
heard.
like that.
Like I said,
Um,
Uh,
like
go on.
operations, they sort those out. Obviously, they can't overnight build lots of indoor rides,
yeah,
but in terms of if they get that reliability there, that consistency there, and I think they're going to be in a really strong position.
for sure.
Mhm. It might be a bit of a shitty question, Sam. I know you said you can't think that way now because you got that third day eventually, but was there a point when you were very worried about like was this trip worthwhile that you only got 2 days and you didn't get to do a lot of stuff on those 2 days? I know it's hard to think in that way now because you had that amazing third day that topped it all off.
Uh, in true interview style, I can give you a specific example to answer that question, Jim.
What? So being professional now? We're starting now.
Yeah. This is it. We're drawing the line. We're about 3 hours in. 17 Zoom recordings because we're still too cheap to pay for the license. So I was sat in guest services, and Victoria messaged me. Wasn't sat on the toilet having a green poo at this point.
I
I
knew
was
that was good. I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming back up.
10
Cassie, I'm
seconds
sorry.
ago when I
I'm
said
sorry.
that he was going to be professional. That didn't
Yeah,
last long,
that
did
didn't
it?
last long.
Ooh.
Um, and she said, how's it going? And I said, I don't want to give you an honest answer because I don't think you're going to like it. And I followed that up with saying, I'm not sure I should have come, to be honest. That is literally how I felt from those operations and what that kind of day, 2 days had done to me. Like I say, after that, I had a couple of rides on hiccups. Amazing ride, obviously cheered me up a little bit. Obviously, I had that great third day, but like I said, the money is one thing, and I used air miles. I made it a little bit cheaper. I had the annual pass. I didn't have to pay for other bits and bats, but it was still a chunk of money nonetheless. Still 5 nights. I've given money to university at their hotel, all the food, the drink. 2 days, epic typics. It was still a chunk of money. But the fact that obviously I'd left the family, wrongly or rightly, to go on this trip at that exact moment in time, it just didn't feel like there was any benefit in doing so. That's how fed up I was. And it's
But
crazy to think actually how excited and how positive I was, and the first half of this episode, and on reflection, coming back, how I felt. But I equally felt that polar opposite of Epic Universe and where it was at, and rushing back to it, and all those other things. So clearly, there is something there. There is something special, and I think as they get their operations on point, as they expand in the coming years, it's only going to get better and better. But yeah, there were certainly bits of that trip where I thought, why have I done this? This isn't good.
but it was a happy ending, just to pick it back up.
It was a happy
Happy
ending.
ending. Nice.
Right, moving on to food then. I'm boring, as we all know, but everyone else loves hearing about the food and drink,
Mm.
of course. Cassie, what did you have? How was it?
I had really great experiences at everything outside of the specific lands. Every
Okay.
specific land's food to me was not that strong. I we spent a lot of money. I really felt like, I don't know, Sam, if you agree with this, I felt like Epic was more expensive than Universal and Islands of Adventure, obviously, because it's a newer park. But at the same time, it's like if you're paying that difference, the quality of food should also be better. Um, I've had better meals at Universal. For specifically, we ate at Das Steakhouse, and my meal, Jay, is a fine meal that you were going to appreciate so much. I had chicken fingers and French
With
fries
the skewers, with like the
with the
sticks in,
skewers
and the grapes.
and the grapes,
And grapes.
and but there were French fries or chips as well.
Not this again.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, I decided to do it
French
while I was
fries. Yeah.
that was great. Carson got like one of the actual meals there, and it was
Mhm.
it was not good.
Oh, really?
It just wasn't good. It was just very subpar. Whereas the food outside of the lands, like we ate at Meteor Astropub
Mhm.
and went by Oak and Star Tavern, and the food in Celestial Park is out of this world, no pun intended. Literally, we had really, really good meals there. The Atlantic specifically, we really put ourselves out there, knew we were going to spend a lot of money on that meal, and the food at the Atlantic was so good. It's so worth the money, in my opinion.
What did you have at
Um,
the Atlantic?
we got a lot of stuff. So, got Caesar salad and corn chowder for my meal because I don't eat heavy at theme parks because I don't want to get sick.
Mhm.
Um, Carson got the lobster shrimp pasta, I think. And we also got the oyster mushroom ceviche. So all of that food was amazing. The service was good. Um, yeah, and we got a burger. We got burgers in the park. Um, way better in Celestial Park. I will tell you, I was really not impressed with the specific land foods at all.
Sam, please do not mention that black burger in Dark Universe again. We've heard enough about that. But did you get a Mario burger with a little Mario hat on it?
I did. So I had the Mario burger, and what did I get? I got a side of, is it dough balls or something?
Hmm.
So I got that. I got a certain black burger,
No, don't go there.
and a side there as well. I got the mac and cheese cone in Burke.
That was quite an
I
experience, wasn't it? But we've touched on that as well.
yeah,
Third time lucky.
I got well, third time kind of lucky.
Third time ish
Uh,
lucky. Yeah.
I also went to Pizza Moon, and I had a pizza and I had a dessert. And I think for me, I think maybe me and Cassie, we agree somewhat, but maybe not at the same time. The food for me was the most overhyped thing. I went into Epic Universe. I heard so much about it being great and unbelievable and next level. You know, I agree. It's certainly more expensive. Um, I thought Pizza Moon, which sits within Celestial Park, was probably the most overrated out of all of them, if I'm being honest with you. It wasn't a bad pizza, but it was a very average pizza. But I'd
It was a
heard
pizza. Yeah.
only amazing sort of things. But in terms of lands, again, everything was average at best. Um, More expensive, average. The theming was certainly on point. Like that was certainly to the next level. But in terms of the taste and the value, I was incredibly disappointed. And I think I one night I went back to the Still and Over and ate there, sort of my evening meal, when I certainly had no intention of doing that, but I just thought I've got no idea what else I'm going to eat at Epic Universe, to be honest, and it's probably not going to be good value for money. So I went and had a burger and fries, and yeah, it was decent at Stella Nova, so probably not a bad decision, to be honest. But the food I really want to get behind because I think that's one of the things that a certain park down the road does better. And based on what all the hype was and all the influencers and everything you saw on social media, Epic Universe was the next level. But other than looking pretty, in my experience, it wasn't. But I didn't try all the same places in Celestial Park that Cassie did.
You get to keep the little Mario hats, though. That's all I'm bothered about. Ella
You
asked me the other day,
do?
like, you get to keep the hats. I'm like, I presume so. You have to hand them back.
No,
Here you
you do.
go.
And I only,
Are you looking for yours now, Sam?
yeah, I don't know where it is. But
Joey will
I
have it.
thought, am I going to be allowed to bring that in hand luggage because it's quite sharp? But it didn't stop me at MCO, so yeah, I've got it somewhere.
Can't use a little Mario hat as a weapon, surely.
Yeah, I know, but the other side, it's quite sharp.
Only you would think that, I'm sure. Cassie, on the drinks you mentioned, you've had quite a few drinks in Celestial Park. I mean,
Yeah.
not a bad view to soak it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely am like just kind of like a, weekend special occasion, like to have a drink here or there. I have recently also really started to enjoy beer a lot more. I used to only kind of focus on like lighter drinks with just vodka, calorie wise, but now I'm like, give me a beer. I just love them. I was pretty impressed with the draft beer selection in both Celestial Park and Dark Universe. We had really great beer while we were there. They are expensive. They're about $14 a piece. Um,
Wow.
but I will say some of them are stronger than others, so that helps. Um, and yeah, I didn't have too many cocktails, I guess, while I was there, because I was getting on so much stuff. But some of the drinks served at the outside, I don't even remember what it's called, the outside bar. They make them strong there. I think the frozen margarita or daiquiri, whatever, everyone is saying that's the strongest drink there because it's like pre-mixed and they put so much liquor in it. But I want to also touch on, if you're not a drinker, the mocktail options are absolutely amazing in that park. I had one or two just because I wanted something refreshing, and I think it's nice that they offer a lot of mocktail options for people that just don't really like to drink. So, yeah, I was very impressed with that.
Moving on then, I'll ask this question to you both as well. I asked it to Danielle and Kenny in last week's episode as well. Does it still have that universal charm, Epic Universe, and that universal feel? Because that's obviously I've not been yet, so I'm like, does it still feel the same? Obviously without nostalgia, but does it still have that universal spark?
I'll
I've,
let
I've,
Sam
stu-
go.
I've stumped you both.
Yeah. Sam, you'll go first.
I think it does, but it's different. It still feels like Universal, but it certainly feels like a different Universal, which I don't know if is a bit of a cop out answer, to be honest. So I can tell it's a Universal theme park, but it certainly does feel very different to what we've seen elsewhere.
Agree. Yeah, Universal and Islands of Adventure have that, you know, nostalgia charm we always talk about.
Mhm.
Very much so, just older, like, whereas Epic Universe, I mean, it's just very, like, the whole celestial theming, the god, like, the sculptures, it's very, very different. But yeah, you can totally tell it's a Universal park because of the theming. Um, but yeah, definitely different, but still has the charm for sure. Because obviously me and Sam are still thinking about it, so.
And I think
uh,
for me, like from a location perspective, it maybe didn't feel as bad on my Epic days because I stayed, as Cassie did by the
Yes.
sounds of it, at Stella Nova. So we were there. But I think if you were staying further afield, you'd really know about it compared to the hotel locations, or even if you're going from Universal Studios to Islands of Adventure, you can walk, you can get the train. Obviously, that's the
Hmm.
advantage that they are next door. So you definitely feel, I guess, if you're staying somewhere else, that you are off property, you are in a completely different location. There's no city walk or anything like that. But in the park, it feels like Universal.
Hmm. Agree. The whole location thing is it throws you off a little bit for sure.
Now I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but does Epic Universe have the potential to be your favorite Universal park in obviously not now because it's too early to say, but in years to come? I'm pretty sure it's not going to be, judging just from what I've heard in this past kind of hour or so.
Depends on what they add.
That is a big thing, yeah. That is a huge thing.
If I get my Lord of the Rings land in Orlando, I'm moving there.
That's coming to
Uh,
England.
hey, I don't know. There's a pretty big expansion plot outside of Epic Universe that I think's either going to be Wicked or Lord of the Rings.
Wicked's the one I've heard as well, yeah.
Okay, we'll have to do an episode on rumors.
Yes, we will.
Launch an episode on rumors. Okay,
100%.
but I could see it becoming a favorite in the future, but the other two just hold such a special place in my heart that it's
Mm.
hard to beat that.
Karen or Sam?
What?
In a few years, maybe, but certainly not now. Again, as Cassie said, it needs to expand. It needs more things. There's probably like five decently sized expansion plots, that they could build into. I think once they've got two or three of those fleshed out, then let's revisit this. And I say it in the vlogs as well. Is it my favorite part now? No. Could it be? Maybe, but probably not. And I think that's still kind of where I lean to. It's going to take an awful lot for it to knock Islands for me, but also even Studios out of second place, to be honest. There's the foundations there, but the foundations have got a long way of building ahead before they can get to that scale.
How long until Universal start to think about building expansions? Do you have any idea? Because I haven't. Like, how many years do it have to be open? Does your Epic Units have to be open before they start thinking, right, we need to add something else now? Like, is it like 5 years?
I think we'll see some in the next couple of years, to be honest.
Really,
I
that
think
quickly?
three. I think 3 to 5. Yeah. They're already planned, I'm sure, fully. Like they already have them planned. They're probably already putting, rights in for stuff, but I don't think we'll see them start building up until about 3 years.
I won't claim those my own thoughts, but I watched an Alicia Stella, which is Theme Park Stop video
Shout
this
out.
afternoon, and she literally talks about the expansion plots and where they basically are and how soon they could be. And she seems to think that Nintendo is going to be the one to get the first land, and that it's already in a state where they could start digging and the like. So on some of the lands, for example, behind Ministry and behind
The
uh,
Dark Universe has got an area behind it.
yeah, Dark Universe, where basically they've seeded the ground. So she thinks they're not going to be doing things with that anytime soon. But the Nintendo land, they haven't. So she seems to think, based on how crazy it is crowd wise and what they've done with the land, that that'll probably be the first thing to come.
Interesting. Like I say, we'll do another episode in probably 2 years' time if we're still going. We're probably not still going at that point. I don't know why I'm saying that for. We'll probably be
You
cancelled by
never
then.
know.
You never know.
They need more water rides. I just want to add that.
Oh,
It
we've not
needs more
spoke about
water
Fire
rides.
Drill as well. I don't know if anyone did Fire Drill. No, Cassie's pulling faces. Cassie's
I
not convinced.
I didn't. I didn't want to get soaking wet.
No. Sam?
I, I did. I didn't get soaked, to be honest with you. I got a little bit wet at one point, but nothing significant. Certainly not like I did with Popeyes and Ripsaw Falls on the subsequent day. Um, it was fine, but I think if you take it in, like what's going on and, all the colors and the atmosphere and things, I think it's not bad. But the actual ride and what you're supposed to be doing, it's
Mhm.
not really great, to be honest with you. Like, again, I don't want to go into spoiler territory, but you're not doing anything. I don't know how
Not
to
doing anything.
I don't know how to talk about it's probably well known of what the ride is, that you're shooting at things,
Mhm.
but you're literally shooting at bits of wood. So there might be certain things that happen depending whether you hit the target or not, but it's not like it's linked up and there's no points. So, it's not
Mhm.
quite a static ride, if that kind of makes sense, which probably doesn't when I've talked about how much there is going on. But it's like you just go and just ride it. It doesn't matter too much about whether you're actually doing the shooting or not.
Right, finishing off with some listener questions from Instagram. The first one is from Sam, who asks, best popcorn at Disney? He sounds like an idiot. Next question. Next question. Steffi Beach. Hello, Steffi. She wants to know your favorite Epic Park snack. You probably already touched on it.
None of them.
None of them yet. Good answer, Cassie.
Um, oh gosh, I think mine is gonna have to be the ice cream at Frosty Moon.
Very nice, very nice. Stace does travel asks rope drop strategy for Epic. Keep it brief.
Don't.
Keep it. Don't. Short and sharp answers here. None of my
Um,
favourites. Don't do it.
if you're doing early park admission, if you need the front of the line, go do minecart, so Donkey Kong. If you're not near the front, go do Stardust. If you're not doing early park admission, I would say go to Isle of Burke
Mhm.
because Dark Universe gets really busy first thing and then quietens down, and God knows what's happening with the Wizarding World. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I would say.
Totally agree with everything Sam just said. In all honesty, I know the don't was. I am kind of serious though. Early park admission, it can be worth it. It might not be. We'll see how it is when it's actually full capacity. Um, but yeah, front of the line, Donkey Kong for sure.
How early do I need to be at early park admission to get near the front of the gate? I guess we won't know until because obviously you've been going for previews, so it's been
Yeah.
less busy.
Yeah, if previews are anything to go by, on both occasions I was there before the on-site transport started. So I was there about an hour and a half one day and about an hour and three quarters the second day before EPA started. and I was pretty much at the front of the line. But there's quite a crowd there before the on-site transport even starts, to be honest.
Yeah.
And what was your best way of passing the time in your wait for Epic, Sam? You're not going to remember, are you? Are you going to remember?
It was going to be a
You listened to
certain
something
podcast,
amazing, weren't you?
but it was the security guard in the end that kept me
Okay,
company.
so you turned us off. You turned our podcast off for Dan or Daniel. That's valid. I hope to meet him anyway.
He's
I
great.
hope you do.
Final question was from our favourite Argentinian friend, Helios, of course. He's like our number one fan at this point. He's absolute legend. He's a great guy.
So
You've
nice.
already touched on it, but he kind of wants to know your disappointments or letdowns. But you've kind of already said that Monsters Unchained was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't want a lot of people to like sit here and like crucify me because I may have just had a different experience because things weren't working the way they were. I mean, that's like something I really want to say and want people to know is like it may not have been working to its full capacity. So, but yeah, it was overhyped for me.
Well, it's Mario Kart for me, to be honest.
Mario Kart for you.
The biggest thing is just going to Epic thinking it's a really good park, but it's not necessarily a 10 out of 10. I think if you go into it thinking it's going to be perfect and everything is going to be amazing and next level, you're probably setting yourself up for fail. Think of it as a
Absolutely.
very good park and you'll have a very good day.
I kind of wish I heard nothing because now my thinking in terms of Mario Kart and Monsters Unchained, like my thought process is going into it is now a little bit different because I've heard, oh, that's not as good as what I thought. Like, obviously, I was really excited for Mario Kart because I'm a huge fan, and now I've heard people go on it and being like, not great. And now I'm like, oh, it's not going to be good then. But who knows? I might love it, but Sam said it goes very, very, very slowly. So yeah.
I can't
And
wait
I,
for us to do an episode when you go.
And the last one, yeah, once this comes, like I said, once this comes out, it'll be a matter of days before I go when this is released. So it'll be like 3 or 4 days as people listen to this right now. So very exciting. Last one, last but not least.
Last
so
but
you
not
can listen
least.
to this outside in waiting for early park admission to start.
I don't think my partner would appreciate me putting my AirPods in. I'm just listening to myself back, not talking to you. She might
Daniel will
be
keep her company, don't worry.
Daniel. Shout out Daniel. Daniel's definitely listened to this.
Yeah.
Right, I'm wrapping up there. Thank you very much for joining me both on this podcast. I don't know how long it's going to be after the edit. It could be a long time. Wish me luck in this edit, by the way.
Yeah. Godspeed.
Yeah. So yeah, we will see you all in the next one.